Last night, the committee of 4 men and one extremely brand-loyal dog gathered what can only be described as a historic meeting. After years of being accused of bias, purely fictional accusations of course, I finally decided to take the plunge and do the honest thing. Move Anton's tears straight onto my Arsenal channel. Convincing the committee wasn't easy. It took tons of free merch, a few quiet promises, and one dog who sold out immediately. But the move was made. We're officially leaving Hotsport and landing here at Fire Them Cannons. New graphics created, new home secured, committee integrity questionable, but unchanged. And through the negotiations, the rebrands, and the cardboard boxes of hoodies, we toiled and burned the midnight oil to bring you the very first Fire Them Cannons episode of the greatest segment in all of football YouTube. It's time for Anton's Tears. Hello everybody and welcome along to Fire Them Cannons. That's going to be interesting getting used to saying that, but here we are at our brand new setup for Anton's Tears. For those of you who have been following this bad boy on Hotsport, by the way, Hotsport's not going away anywhere. I should clarify. We are doing these videos in collaboration with my personal channel with Hotsport, so you can still, for my followers and subscribers over there, will still be able to get access to all my videos. But of course, the origin now belongs to Fire Them Cannons. So make sure you're hitting the like button. Make sure you're subscribing to Fire Them Cannons and to Hotsport. Keep it locked on both networks, of course. For those of you guys who do not know how the tiers work, basically we've ranked all 20 Premier League clubs based on their performances throughout the first 24 weeks of the season at this point. The next 14 fixtures they have coming up. Basically, by the way, the transfer window has just closed, so the squads have kind of gotten better or worse depending on what, not much different, to be honest. And yeah, we have a committee has gone together and we kind of decide, how we rank all the teams. And it's not meant to be your traditional Premier League table, right? This is sort of a little bit more of a mix of different things and more of a projection moving forward of how we feel the teams actually rank, once all 38 games will be played. And it's the fluid list. It will change basically week to week, depending on the results. One thing is that they are weighted, which is one of the big differences they are in terms of strength of schedule is very, very key. So if you have played a harder schedule to now, you are going to have a higher ranking than probably what your table place is, because there's a projection that the rest of the games are going to get easier, that you've got your harder fixtures in the back window, that the points just mean more. When you face the hardest teams in the league, the wins count more to the algorithm towards the tiers, and the defeats count less. And the opposite, of course, when you play the really easy teams, the wins count not really that much at all, but the losses can be really, really, really bad, in terms of your algorithm, and it can dent it. We will eliminate 3 teams when we believe that there's almost no chance of them staying up in the Premier League. So as you can see, Wolves are on this list. They've been eliminated since December. So this is a continuation, obviously, of the Anton's Tears that I've had on Hotsport. So yes, let's begin. And of course, we do have Wolves eliminated from the tiers of a grand total, again, after 24 games, of 8 points. So that's basically 1 point every 3 games on average. Yeah, so not very good. It's actually still below the all-time lowest points total in Derby County, but I believe that 1 win would level them, a win and a draw would take them out of that position, and I do expect them eventually to go ahead and do that. But enough about Wolves. Let's move on to the bottom tier. Undisciplined. So yes, I have got Forest and I have got West Ham at the bottom. And I got to say, both of those teams should have gone ahead and won. Like Nottingham Forest go ahead early with Gibbs White, but they shoot themselves in the foot. You know, Williams gets sent off. Sarr scores not long after that. And of course, 3 points turns into 1 point. With West Ham 2-0 up at halftime against Chelsea. You know, of course, you know, the red card does come after the damage is done with Todibo getting sent off well after, you know, Fernandez's winner. But they blew a 2-0 lead. Did West Ham away at the Bridge. It was almost a really impressive performance. Now, I got to tell you, I think both of these teams have what it takes, have the talent in them to survive in this league. The final two relegation teams are going to be really interesting. As we move on to the next tier, I will kind of show you that, because I do have 3 teams were in this tier where I have dream time only. So a lot of people would question, hey, Burnley are on 15 points. Why are Burnley higher up on the tiers than Forest, for example, who at the moment are out of the drop zone? Now, Burnley have had the hardest schedule in all of the league. That means in the final 14 games, they have the easiest schedule in the league. That's always the way it works, right? Because everything ends up evening itself out. So, like, if you take an example, since the turn of the start of the second half of the season, Burnley have played, if I'm not mistaken, I'm actually going to go back here to take a look at that. Burnley have played, I believe, three big shots. That's right. Man United, Liverpool, and Spurs. 3 big 6 sides since we started the second half of the season. So compared to Forest and West Ham, they have an easier schedule. Now, the dream time over part. Burnley have actually had a few good results recently. Then they went to the Stadium of Light, and all of a sudden it's like the dream that they've been having over the last few weeks finished. They woke up and they were a reality, and that's right, we're Burnley. And Sunderland, who came up with them, absolutely gave them a spanking. And the Sunderland team that was in transition, having, you know, sold Adingra, which we'll talk about earlier, no Granit Xhaka either, and they still took him to the cleaners at home. Of course, the hardest scheduled place to go, the best home team, I believe, home record in the league, the only undefeated one in the league this season has been Sunderland. So again, Crystal Palace, on the other hand, have been through a nightmare as of recently. Again, Sarr does rescue a point at the City Ground against Nottingham Forest. But yeah, Mateta, we thought he was on his way to AC Milan. It turns out he's failed the medical there, and now he's probably going to have surgery because of the issue that they've discovered with the medical. So weird stuff going on there with Crystal Palace. They've actually brought in Jorgen Strand Larsen from Wolves. So I'm like, yeah, that's going to fix your problem. The striker who struggled all season from the worst team in the Premier League, who's struggling to even play games for Wolves, is now going to be your answer for Crystal Palace. You know, they brought in Gassand, who we mentioned, I think, last week. But the results have really been, the season just seems like they're being falling off the rails for Crystal Palace. You know, although they do sit in 15th, I do expect them to stay up in the league. Again, though, we were talking about a team that used to be second in the league at one point. And Leeds, after a really good run of beating a lot of teams and really picking up a lot of points, they play a desperate, you know, title favorite at home and got spanked. You know, a wire-to-wire victory for Arsenal. And again, it's a bit of a reality check for Leeds. Next up, these are the average Joes. So these teams, I just feel like, are right in the middle of the pack. Now, you got both of the teams up north, the Tyne and the Weir sides. I actually think, again, Sunderland have done remarkably well, you know, in the top 8. Again, for me, that's still average-ish. they do have a lot of injury issues at the moment. Adingra leaving, I think for me was a bit shocking. I didn't know what went into that move, but I feel like it's a bit of a downgrade. To be honest, they brought in the kid from Anderlecht. Yeah, they got a big 3-0 win, but again, now they have to go to the Emirates on the weekend against, an Arsenal team that is going to be looking really to capitalize, and we'll talk about them later, but that's going to be a dangerous one. Sunderland's fixtures are going to get more difficult as the season progresses, and I do kind of feel like they aren't going to stay where they are right now. Newcastle, their neighbors, have been really underwhelming this season tremendously. And, after taking the lead against Liverpool, they shipped 4. Ekatike, Szoboszlai, and Wirtz. I believe those were the 4 goal scorers. And, they woke up the beast. Liverpool woke up. I mean, Liverpool have just been battering Newcastle all year. From the transfer window when they took Isak, from that last-second winner before they took Isak, and now, with Isak injured, they destroyed them at Anfield. So it's been a tough season for Newcastle, in all honesty. In 11th place, I would expect them to be better, and I'm starting to come to the conclusion that they're just never going to end up where I eventually thought that they would, and it's been a pretty average season. Fulham and Everton, I'll just tell you, the both of them sitting 9th and 10th in the Premier League. Again, Fulham, unlucky to lose it late against Man United at Old Trafford, almost secured a point away at Old Trafford. And Everton, again, secure another point, I believe, against Brighton late on with Beto. So, they've been the comeback kings in recent times, but again, they're just not quite as bad as the teams below them, but they're not as good as the teams above them, which include Brighton and Spurs. Now, I can say the question is if it's a point gained. I think there are 2 answers for both sides. For Brighton, when Pascal Gross scored, you thought, okay, they're going to be going ahead to picking up the 3 points. Brighton, of course, sitting on the Premier League table right now in 13th on 31 points. That would have been a crucial 2 points, would have had them level with Bournemouth and Newcastle. And by the way, with Everton, who gained a point in that scenario, instead they're stuck on 31 points. Now, on the other side, though, Tottenham Hotspur, 2-0 down against City. By the way, poor in the first half. And I feel like they kind of just fell into a draw. Just a 2-0 comeback. It was almost like it was unintentional, but the way it happened, but it did. And I thought that Tottenham, were threatening on the counterattack on many occasions. Probably could have gone ahead and won the game. But, to play spoilers at home that way, they've taken 4 points this season, or actually even really taken 5 points, it depends, 4 points this season off of Man City. Again, the hoodoo for City when it comes to Tottenham Hotspur continues, and I think Tottenham move up the tiers a little bit because they got themselves a very valuable point at home. So the question is there a point gained? For one, I believe so. The other one, I believed it was 2 points dropped. But again, these 2 teams are right about here in the middle of the tiers. Next up, a second win. So again, for Bournemouth, they get another win, for this time away at the Molineux against relegated Wolves. But, they had gone a long time without victory. And it feels like the Semenyo transfer, once it was a here we go, I mentioned this last week, to City. Of course, he wins it at the death to say his goodbyes as they play Spurs, and he beats them at the Horn. But then since then, they've continued on a good run of results. They've added this Wolves result to a really impressive win against Liverpool 3-2 at home. They went to the Amex to get a point. I think that was the last game of that Semenyo. So they really have a second wind here, Bournemouth. They're continuing to move up the table after what was a disappointing period. Like, they start off the season really, really well, like a house on fire with Semenyo. I think once that Semenyo link started coming apart, it started to, like, you know, I feel like that's kind of when the wheels started to fall off a little bit. Everybody was saying that I was reaching too much, but I used to kind of feel like, and then once that was resolved, then, you know, the camaraderie and everything has kind of jumped back into gear for Bournemouth. They've got a big game at home against Villa. I think one that where Villa is going to be wary of, you know, given the form of Bournemouth. But it's good to see, you know, they were really low down the tiers in a certain point a few weeks ago. Now all of a sudden they are really just below, you know, what you would call the big boys in the tiers. And those are, by the way, sprung into action. You know, two teams that have struggled recently after, you know, having had some good periods, all had massive awakenings this weekend. Brentford, after losing 2 on the bounce, you know, went to Villa Park, you know, by the way, got a shot sent off, which, by the way, was such a stupid tackle, but went ahead and grabbed the winner anyway through, you know, Ouattara, and held on to a huge 3 points away at Villa Park, with down to 10 men. You know, Chelsea 2-0 down. They seemed like everything was crashing. By the way, they did crash out. I'm recording this after the Carabao Cup. They did crash out of the Carabao Cup, but they were 2-0 down against West Ham. They fought themselves all the way back. Enzo gets the winner. That's a huge 3 points for Chelsea right now to kind of keep, you know, up with the chasing pack. And they're in 5th place, a valuable 5th place right now when it comes to the Champions League spot. Same cannot be said for Liverpool, but Liverpool, as we mentioned earlier, came to life. After going 1-0 down to Newcastle, they all of a sudden just, by the way, responded right away. Ekitike adds another brace to his tally as he turns that around. You know, Wirtz and Szoboszlai add on to that thing, and hopefully, you know, for Slot, this is a big win for Liverpool to move themselves up the table, you know. But let's see, because right now they are sitting outside of the top 5 spots. So it's going to be a really interesting down to the wire fight for the European places. Because at the moment, I believe with the way that the English team is performing, Liverpool would be in the Europa League if they finish 6th. Next up, way too much chess. And by the way, these are talking about 2 different periods of time. Aston Villa thought they were in a title race. Look, they're still 7 points off of Arsenal. But for me, then there's no title race. I keep saying that all the time. People keep trying to, and every time they think that there's some hope. You know, they cut the lead to 4 last week, and then they can't even register at home against Bournemouth when the pressure is on. And then Man United. For Man United, all of a sudden, their fans are like, you know, they've grown a cup size. Like, you know, they had their back-to-back wins against the 2 title challengers, Arsenal the last week, and the week before that, Man City. And we were all wondering, like, hey, it's very all well and good coming up with a game plan against some of the biggest teams in the country, but when they have to be in control, when it's on them to win the game, what are they going to do? And I think a bit of mixed results, to be honest. They won against a Fulham side that I think has been good all year, but they had a 2-0 lead. They almost let slip. I mean, they did. And then Benjamin Sesko comes ahead, you know, 3 minutes. By the way, great response. Just like, by the way, they did last week against Arsenal at the Emirates. Just when, you know, the other team gets themselves an equalizer, they are right at it. They get themselves, they're proactive. You know, they don't let their heads drop, and they got themselves a winner. So, Man United fans have got 3 on the bounce, which, by the way, I think it happened once under Amorim. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments section. But, you know, yeah, Carrick, 3 for 3 in the Premier League. And, you know, United fans are starting to wonder, you know, are we going to be in the top 4? Are we going to get back in the Champions League next year? They've got a struggling-ish Tottenham team coming to Old Trafford. So a bit of a mix of the of the tests. You know what I mean? It's like a pseudo, Big Six team, but with that kind of like bit of Fulham-ish type of form, right? Although Fulham have actually been better than Tottenham. Tottenham are 14th in the Prem. Come to Man United. And could that be 4 on the bounce? Could we be 1 win away from United Strand cutting his hair? What would be the fixture after Spurs that they would need to get in the Prem? West Ham away. This is a huge one for him. He'd be like, oh man, my hair, I can almost book my haircut. Because he got West Ham at, London Stadium, who everyone's been battering them. Interesting times ahead. Shall we talk title then? Shall we do it? All right. Well, this was a big weekend in the title, and the names are apropos to it. Last week, we were talking about maybe Arsenal, buckling under the pressure of the expectation. Well, a big difference a week makes, because Man City are probably going to need, from this point on, to win all 14 of their games for them to win the league, in my opinion. I've really been thinking about it. And do I see Arsenal dropping 3 to 4 times rest of the season? That, by the way, Arsenal need to drop points, have 3 draws or 2 defeats rest of the season, with City being perfect for City to probably win the league. That's, again, I don't think that City are going to go perfect, but it's probably going to require it. And, a lot of people, including myself, have said, I just don't think the City team is a title-winning team. And take that Wolves game out of the equation, and they've dropped points in 4 of their last 5 games in the league. Really deep that. The defense looks bad. Gahey's in there. It doesn't matter. They cut up a 2-0 lead. It looked like they were cruising, Cherky, a summer signing, and Semenyo, a January signing, they seemed like we scored. Tottenham seemed to be like letting them fucking score. It seemed to be so fucking easy for them in the first half to get in behind and to score their chances, but they're not feeding Haaland enough. They're way too easy to get at the transition. They can't stop the transition to save their life, and they just don't look like. By the way, add Bodo Glimt to that as well. They just don't look like a team that's going to win the Premier League. If they keep defending the way they are, they don't look like a team that's winning the Premier League. And I have to say, they have to go to Anfield this weekend, and this is why. I'm going to lead this into the team at the top of the tier, the team that, of course, Fire Them Cannons is all about. So I'm going to make all of my audience here very, very happy when I do announce that the team at the top of the tiers is it coronation time for the Gunners, for Arsenal. Is it? Because Anfield awaits for Manchester City this weekend. Arsenal play before that at believe it is a 3 o'clock kickoff, or whatever time it is. It's 2 a.m. here. They kick off earlier against a Sunderland team without Granit Xhaka. Dingra's now gone, who's not really that good away from home. Arsenal need to capitalize this time. And if they do, they would go 9 points clear ahead of Manchester City's trip to Liverpool to take on the Reds at Anfield. If Liverpool were to win or even get a draw against City, that would be 9 or 8 point lead for Arsenal with 13 games remaining. I would find it very hard pressed, especially if the number is 9, to see Arsenal not go ahead to win the league. Again, it was an important 4-0 win against Leeds. It really kickstarted everything, by the way. Since then, Arsenal have not gone ahead, beaten Chelsea at home in the second leg of the Carabao Cup final. So Arsenal not going to be playing a final potentially against Manchester City. We'll have to see what goes on in that one. But Arsenal's winning trophies this year, ladies and gentlemen. Arsenal have been not probably the best team in England, but probably in Europe this season. 8 for 8 in the Champions League. And I think you have to come to almost the final conclusion. I'm not there quite fully yet, because I think there still needs to be a little bit more breathing room, you know. But I do kind of feel that this Arsenal team is destined for the title. So coronation time, it could be soon. I think this weekend is a telling weekend. If Arsenal win and City lose, which, by the way, for me are the most likely results, and Arsenal increase that gap finally to 9 points, I'm ready to do it. I'm ready to say that, we are just counting down the days until Arsenal, mathematically make it impossible and go ahead and finally break the 22-year drought and win the Premier League title. Guys, let me know what you guys all think in the comment section below of my tiers. Let me know what you guys think about the setup. I'm really hoping, being on Fire Them Cannons, I know my community here. I know you guys are always very involved. So I hope you guys really just enjoy the content that's coming to you. Cal's also make content. You would have seen he put earlier his temp check video a couple days back. We just had our watch along as well. Lots and lots of programs here on Fire Them Cannons, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the tiers. Again, in the comment section below, let me know if you disagree with any of my tiers. Would you reorder it? Do you think that Arsenal is basically maybe one weekend away, one big weekend away this weekend from almost having it be a foregone conclusion, or at least advancing to, as Terry would say, from marginal favorites, although I think that's marginal is ridiculous to me at this point, from marginal favorites to clear favorites. That could be potentially the move that gets made. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think. I will be back tomorrow with another Hotsport 1 video, Under Pressure. So make sure you're locked down for Under Pressure, one of my favorite segments to film every week. It's actually been a few weeks since I've done it, because I've been working on behind the scenes on this transition. But it'll be back, and it'll be live, not live, but whatever. It'll be on Fire Them Cans. Anyway, guys, enjoy then. Until the next time, Anton out.